A young farmer made a choice that ended his life. He wanted to know the date of his own death, so on the night of December 24th, he climbed into the hayloft above his stable and waited in absolute silence. The stories his grandmother told him said that animals could speak like humans for 12 hours on this one night each year, and he desperately needed to hear what his horses would say about his future. At midnight, the horses began talking to each other. They discussed their owner in detail. His health, his habits, his prospects for the coming year. Then one of them mentioned something specific about when he would die and exactly how it would happen. The farmer heard every single word, and the shock made him lose his balance. He fell from the loft and landed hard on the stable floor. They discovered his body the next morning sprawled beside the feeding trough, dead in precisely the manner the horses had predicted. This comes from Germanic folklore passed down through generations, written by people who believed these warnings could save their lives. Tonight, we are opening those archives. This is the Pandora's Project, and we are about to explore the Rauhnächte, 12 nights when the boundary between our world and something else becomes dangerously thin. From December 25th through January 6th, a cosmic gap opens that our ancestors feared with good reason. During these nights, beings walked that should not exist, animals spoke in human voices, and the future became visible to those who knew where to look. If you notice that time feels strange during late December, if your dreams become unusually vivid between Christmas and New Year's, or if January 7th always feels like reality suddenly clicks back into place, then you are sensing what our ancestors documented in terrifying detail. Subscribe so you do not miss which forbidden records we unseal next, and leave a like if you want to see more from these archives. But understanding why animals speak on that particular night requires understanding something our Celtic and Germanic ancestors discovered that horrified them. They found a flaw in time itself, a gap that opens every winter on an exact schedule. The church tried desperately to seal this gap in 567 AD by transforming it into the 12 days of Christmas, hoping Christian celebration would somehow close a cosmic wound. They failed completely. The gap continued opening. The beings kept walking. People continued dying when they broke the protection rules. And those rules, along with detailed descriptions of what lurked outside during those 12 nights, were written down and preserved through generations. What created this gap? Why does it open during those specific dates? And what walks through it while the rest of us sleep? The answer starts with mathematics that revealed something terrifying about the nature of time itself. Part 1. The Cosmic Gap. Picture living in an era before clocks existed, before printed calendars, before electric lights pushed back the darkness. Your only way to measure time comes from watching the sun move across the sky during the day and tracking the moon's phases at night. Our Celtic and Germanic ancestors lived this way for centuries, and because they observed the sky with intensity we have completely lost, they noticed something deeply disturbing. 1 year measured by the sun, the time Earth takes to complete one full orbit, lasts 365 days. But 1 year measured by the moon, counting 12 complete lunar cycles, lasts only 354 days. Every single year, 11 days and 12 nights are left over with nowhere to go. This surplus time belongs neither to the year ending nor to the year beginning. This was not some minor mathematical inconvenience. Our ancestors recognized it as a tear in the fabric of existence itself, a cosmic gap where the normal rules governing reality stopped applying. Inside this gap, things could happen that were otherwise completely impossible. The Celts named it the Rauhnächte, which translates to the rough nights. Scholars argue about the word's origins. Some trace it to the old High German word Rauh, meaning wild or untamed. Others connected it to Rauch, meaning smoke, because people burned enormous amounts of protective herbs during this time to drive away whatever came through the gap. Whatever the true etymology, everyone agreed on what these 11 days and 12 nights represented. a wound in time. A period when the boundary separating our world from the other world, that realm of spirits and gods and the restless dead, became permeable enough that things could cross between them. The dead could return and walk among the living. Animals gained the ability to speak in human language. Dreams showed the future with unsettling accuracy. And fate itself, normally fixed and unchangeable, became fluid enough to be influenced through rituals performed at precise moments. Winter already brought deadly threats. Food supplies ran low. Cold temperatures could kill. Darkness dominated most of each day. But during the Rauhnächte, these physical dangers combined with something far more lethal. Gods and demons, ancestors and monsters, all moved freely through the world during these nights. The protections people relied on throughout the rest of the year simply did not work. The usual rules no longer applied. Germanic tribes already celebrated the winter solstice on December 21st, the longest and darkest night of the year. They called it Thomas Night or Rumble Night, named after the rumbling thunder heard during winter storms. Some said the thunder was Donar, the thunder god, riding across the frozen sky. Others claimed it was the Wild Hunt, a procession of the dead led by Wotan himself sweeping through the darkness to gather souls. When Christianity arrived in Germanic territories, church authorities faced a significant problem. They could destroy pagan temples and forbid the old festivals, but they could not ban winter itself or close the cosmic gap through proclamation. People needed these rituals to survive the darkest months, and simply forbidding them would create dangerous resistance. So the church chose a different approach. In 567 AD, the Council of Tours made an official declaration. The time from December 25th to January 6th would become Christmastide, a sacred season celebrating Christ's birth. 12 days and 12 nights, the same duration as the Rauhnächte, now overlaid with Christian meaning and authority. The church believed this would solve everything. Give the dangerous nights a Christian framework and people would gradually forget the old traditions. Replace fear with celebration, protection rituals with prayers. But something unexpected happened. Folk traditions had existed for centuries before Christianity arrived. Protection rituals predated baptism by generations. The fear of what walked during those nights came from direct experience, from witnessed deaths, from knowledge passed down through bloodlines. The church could assign new meaning to old customs, but it could not change the cosmic mathematics. The 11-day gap remained. The tear in time still opened every winter exactly on schedule. So two completely different traditions came to occupy the same 12 nights. The church offered prayers and hymns celebrating holy mysteries. Meanwhile, families barred their doors after sunset, burned protective herbs through their homes, and followed rules designed to keep them alive until dawn. This knowledge eventually went underground. It survived in family traditions that people could no longer fully explain, in superstitions that made no logical sense but felt profoundly true, in behaviors performed automatically without understanding why. Today, most people only know the 12 Days of Christmas as a cheerful song about increasingly absurd gifts. They cannot explain why these particular 12 days matter or when they officially begin and end. Many assume Christmas Day concludes the season rather than beginning it. But the Rauhnächte still exist. The 11-day tear reopens every year between December 25th and January 6th, exactly on schedule. The cosmic mathematics remain unchanged. We have simply forgotten what our ancestors knew about surviving it. But the manuscripts remain, written by people who documented everything they witnessed. Who gave the beings names and described their methods? Who warned about exactly what survival required? And what those manuscripts describe about what walked through the gap during those 12 nights is far more specific and terrifying than vague folklore. Some of these beings you already know, though you have forgotten what they really are. Part 2. Terror Figures of the Nights. The manuscripts identify specific entities by name and describe their methods in precise detail. These were not vague campfire stories meant to frighten children. These were survival documents recording real threats, beings with territories and hunting patterns and rules. December 13th, Lucia night. This comes before the Rauhnächte officially begin, but she announces what is coming. Picture a farmhouse deep in the Black Forest. Children sleep in the loft above while their parents sit beside the fire below. Winter wind howls outside. The shutters are closed and barred. The door is secured. The fire burns bright. Then comes the sound. Tap, tap, tap. Someone is knocking on the window shutters with slow, patient deliberation. A woman's voice comes through the wood, not harsh or threatening, but gentle, almost soothing. I know you are awake inside there. I know what the children did this year. Your daughter told a lie last September. Your son stole bread in October. I keep very detailed records of these things. The father grips his wife's arm hard and whispers urgently, "Do not answer her. Do not open anything. Do not even look toward the window." The tapping continues with that same patient rhythm. The voice speaks again, closer now, right at the door. Just let me see them for a moment. I only want to look at their faces. I promise I will be gentle with them. They sit frozen, barely breathing, while the fire crackles and the tapping goes on, accompanied by that sweet, reasonable voice asking permission to come inside. This continues until dawn finally breaks. When morning comes and the father opens the door, he finds red streaks on the window shutters that look like someone dragged wet fingers down the wood following the grain. He paints over them immediately and never speaks about what happened. This was Bloody Lucia, and she appeared wearing a white dress or white apron stained permanently red with old blood. She carried a long knife or sometimes a sickle in one hand. She moved from house to house on this night, tapping on windows and calling for children whose misbehavior she had recorded. She was infinitely patient and could wait outside all night if necessary. If you opened your door to her, she would enter, take the children, slit open their stomachs, fill the cavities with stones, and throw the weighted bodies into the nearest creek or river where they would stay underwater until spring thaw. If the bodies were ever found at all. But Lucia hunted alone and chose her victims carefully. What came next was neither selective nor patient. On the coldest nights, people woke to the sound of hooves, except these were not hooves striking the ground, but hooves pounding directly on the clouds themselves. Thunder rolled through clear winter skies. Wind carried voices speaking in languages that predated human memory. Those foolish enough to look up saw shapes moving through the storm clouds. Those foolish enough to open their doors were never seen again. This was the Wild Hunt, a spectral host of riders on phantom horses creating thunder with their hooves as they rode through winter skies. Howling winds announced them. The sound of something massive moving through darkness above. They gathered souls, sweeping up the dead and the damned and anyone caught outside during the 12 nights to join their endless ride. Wotan led the hunt, riding his 8-legged horse Sleipnir. He wore a wide-brimmed hat that cast shadows over his face. A single eye blazed with cold light. He carried the spear called Gungnir. Behind him rode the warrior dead and swept up souls, hundreds of spectral riders moving as a single unit. In some regions, Frau Halle led instead, commanding the dead through winter skies. The unbaptized children, women who died during childbirth, those who died wrong deaths. She brought both terror and occasional blessing. Hide respectfully, and you might find small gifts by your doorstep at dawn. Mock the hunt, and you would be taken immediately. If you stayed inside during the hunt, it would pass over. You would hear it, but remain safe. But if you were caught outside when the hunt rode, it would see you, and you would join it forever. If you found yourself caught outside and heard the hunt approaching, only one desperate option remained. Throw yourself into the nearest ditch, lie completely flat with your hands and feet crossed over your chest. Do not look up. Do not move. Do not even breathe if you can manage it. The hunt might pass over you. Maybe. December 21st, Thomas Night, the longest and darkest night of the year. This is when bloody Tamil roams through villages wearing blood-soaked clothing or carrying a bloody pig's bladder. Goat or buckskin drapes over his body. He holds a hammer large enough to crush a skull with a single blow. He wanders from settlement to settlement, knocking on doors, terrifying people with his appearance. He throws the bloody bladder through windows without actually entering. Those who see him are marked for misfortune throughout the coming year. Legend identifies bloody Tamil as connected to Donar, the thunder god, who became enraged when Christianity turned his sacred day into the feast of the Apostle Thomas. Now he waits on this night for those who abandoned the old faith and no longer remember his name. In the alpine regions they feared the hobagoas, creatures appearing as two-legged billy goats or horned beings with goats' feet. They broke branches from trees, damaged houses and haylofts, roamed through homes at night seeking grain to spoil and blood to drink. They announced famine and misfortune. When thunderstorms approached, farmers feared for their harvest because storms brought the hobagoas with them. During the thunder, careful listening might reveal the bleating of goats in the fields. At dawn, you would find tracks in the mud shaped like goats' hooves, but far too large and far too deliberately placed. Then there is the Rauhnächte, a demon with long black fur and tattered clothing. He roams during the Rauhnächte as the evil companion of Saint Nicholas, similar to Krampus. The name Rauhnächte can be interpreted as another word for the devil. Its exact origin is unknown, but scholars suspect it derives from the Germanic god Woden. The Rauhnächte is likely a branch of the Perchten, those wild beings clad in animal skins who roam the winter nights. These beings reflected genuine winter dangers during an era without heating, electric light, or modern medicine. People died from cold and hunger. Diseases spread through crowded homes. Darkness lasted 18 hours each day. The terror figures personified these threats and made them comprehensible, which meant they could potentially be fought. Because for every threat, our ancestors developed a corresponding defense. For every demon, a protection ritual. For every danger, a specific precaution. And what those protection systems looked like, how ordinary families kept themselves alive through 12 consecutive nights of terror, that knowledge was written down in meticulous detail and passed through generations because survival depended on getting it exactly right. The survival manuals remain, and they are very specific about what works. Part 3. Protection Rituals. Over centuries, Germanic and Celtic peoples developed sophisticated protection systems to survive the Rauhnächte. These were not random superstitions, but carefully tested methods refined through generations. The fundamental rule was absolute. After sunset, do not leave the house under any circumstances. Anyone caught outside became vulnerable. The wild hunt could seize them. Bloody Lucia could find them. Bloody Tamil could mark them. The hobagoas could drain them. Every door and window had to be closed tightly and then additionally sealed using consecrated branches or salt. Every possible opening required protection. On Christmas Eve, specific rules applied. Hanging laundry on the line was absolutely forbidden because spirits could become entangled in fabric and use it to gain access to the house. No cleaning rags or brooms could be carried outside for the same reason. After blessing the stable with protective smoke, returning to check on the animals was forbidden because on this holy night they spoke to each other and sometimes revealed when their owners would die. Hearing that information could kill you because fear could transform the prophecy into reality. The central protection ritual was called Rauhnächte, incense burning. Using smoldering herbs, people walked through every room of their house and stable while speaking blessings and requesting protection. Herb selection mattered enormously. Juniper was considered most powerful against evil entities because its evergreen needles symbolized life persisting through the deepest winter, and its sharp smoke drove away demons and harmful influences by filling spaces and leaving no room for unwelcome presences. Mugwort, which grew wild along roadsides, was believed to possess the ability to distinguish between good and evil, expelling only bad influences while welcoming beneficial spirits. Frankincense, originally imported from Arabia, had become established in Germanic regions because its sweet scent built a bridge between earthly and heavenly realms, requesting divine protection as the smoke rose upward. Sage freed houses and farms from negative energies, its silvery green leaves symbolizing wisdom and protection. Myrrh, another precious imported resin, was used in wealthier households because, although expensive, it was effective, and survival justified any cost. The fumigation ritual followed a specific sequence that could not be altered. Living rooms first, then stable and storerooms, finally the boundaries of the entire property. During this process, you recited ancient blessing formulas or Christian prayers depending on your tradition. Some families used both, reasoning that more protection was always better. Doors and windows represented the most vulnerable points. If something passed the outer boundary, it would test these thresholds next, so protection had to be strongest here. Consecrated branches hung above doors. Holly wreaths were placed on exteriors with thorns deliberately facing outward. Salt lines were drawn across every threshold in unbroken perfection because spirits could not cross salt. Iron objects were hung on doors and windows. Horseshoes, nails, any worked iron, because iron that had been used held more power than new iron. The metal of earth and life was hated by many spirits and demons. Window shutters closed at sunset and did not open until full dawn. No exceptions. Evergreen branches were placed on interior sills. Iron nails were driven into frame corners. Chalk marks bearing protective symbols were drawn on glass. And the most critical rule regarding windows: never look outside after dark. Looking creates connection. Connection creates vulnerability. The records document this pattern repeatedly. People who looked out, who answered when their names were called, who opened shutters to investigate tapping sounds, they died within days or weeks, always before Epiphany arrived. The most powerful protective object in any household was the consecrated bread knife. This knife, used daily to cut bread, had a special connection to life and nourishment. People carried it during the Rauhnächte or placed it under their pillows at night. The iron blade provided additional protection. The blessing received during church service made it sacred. Certain plants offered additional defensive properties. Mistletoe, that mysterious plant growing without roots in earth, was understood as a bridge between heaven and earth. A mistletoe branch above the door shielded the house from evil because it existed between worlds and could see into both, offering warning and protection. Holly, with its sharp thorns and vivid red berries, deterred demons who would be pierced attempting to enter, while those red berries symbolized life and hope, proving that life persisted even when all color had drained from the winter world. Garlic, though not native to the region, had become established in Germanic times as protection against supernatural dangers. Cloves were carried in pockets or worn around necks because the smell alone repelled certain beings. Animals required especially heavy protection. Stables were fumigated most thoroughly. Consecrated branches were hung. Iron objects were strategically placed. Some farmers painted protective symbols on stable doors. Others placed consecrated salt directly in feeding troughs. Anything that might help. Anything that might keep the animals alive through 12 dangerous nights. These protection rituals formed a complex system serving both practical and psychological purposes. They gave people a sense of control during a time filled with uncertainty and fear. They structured the dark winter days. They created community when families gathered together to protect their homes. And they worked. Families maintaining the protection survived, generation after generation. Those who neglected the rituals or dismissed them as outdated nonsense learned otherwise, though often too late to save themselves. But the Rauhnächte offered more than just danger. They also provided something valuable and unique. Each of the 12 nights held specific power and meaning. Each night predicted the corresponding month of the coming year. Those who understood how to read the signs could see what was approaching, could prepare properly, could improve their chances of survival. And the methods for reading those signs, the techniques for seeing the future during this time when it became visible, those were also written down in careful detail. Part 4. The 12 Nights and Their Prophecies. Each Rauhnight functions as a dark gate opening to reveal one month of the coming year. What happens during each night foretells what will happen during the corresponding month. The first night, December 24th to 25th, represents January. This is when the gap tears open and light enters the world through Christ's birth according to Christian tradition. The focus falls on new beginnings, cleansing, releasing the old. Houses are fumigated and people prepare themselves inwardly for the new year. This night is most dangerous because the veils between worlds have just been torn open and spirits that were trapped in the other world throughout the entire previous year now stream into our world. Fumigation with frankincense or sage becomes particularly critical. Weather conditions this night predict January conditions. Dreams this night reveal January events. The second night, December 25th to 26th, represents February. This is the night of rest and peace. Traditionally, a quiet day for reflecting on inner values, meditation and making peace with yourself and others. If this night passes peacefully, February will be mild. If the night feels restless or stormy, February brings unrest. The third night, December 26th to 27th, represents March. The heart begins speaking. Time for love, community, family. Focus on relationships and settle old quarrels. Mend broken bonds. Forgive past grievances. Weather this night reflects March weather. Family harmony this night predicts harmony in March. Conflict this night warns of conflict approaching. The fourth night, December 27th to 28th, represents April, dedicated to deep cleansing. Old beliefs and harmful habits must be released to create space for new growth. Fumigate, especially thoroughly. Write down what needs changing in the new year. A clear night means clear April. Foggy night means confusion in April. What you release this night determines what you can receive in spring. The fifth night, December 28th to 29th, represents May, the night of insight and visions. Prophetic dreams become particularly powerful. Many people report visionary experiences showing their path for the coming year. Temperature and precipitation this night will reflect May growing conditions. This becomes critical for agriculture, for knowing when to plant and when to expect harvest. The sixth night, December 29th to 30th, represents June. Time for taking stock. Reflect on the past year and decide what should be carried into the new year and what must be left behind. A night of clarity and important decisions. This prediction matters enormously for agriculture because the growing season depends on June weather. What this night reveals, June will deliver. The seventh night, December 30th to 31st, represents July, one of the most powerful nights. The night of transformation, a portal into the new, since the following day is New Year's Eve. The old dies completely, and the new is born. Many feel special spiritual power during this night. Extreme weather this night means extreme July. This determines the height of summer, the peak of the entire year. The eighth night, December 31st to January 1st, represents August, the night of rebirth, marking the true beginning of the new year in spiritual terms. Look forward and make resolutions for the coming year. Note the wind direction this night because it will determine August harvest conditions. This is when the year's work culminates, when you gather what you have sown. The ninth night, January 1st to 2nd, represents September, the night of visions and dreams. After intense New Year's time, calm slowly returns and prophetic powers can fully unfold. Many important insights arrive during this night. September is harvest month, making this night's signs critical for planning, for knowing what approaches, for preparing properly. The 10th night, January 2nd to 3rd, represents October, dedicated to integration. What you recognized and experienced during previous nights should now settle and become part of your personality. A night of stability and grounding. This shows when winter preparation begins. This night reveals how harsh the coming winter will be. Stock supplies accordingly. The 11th night, January 3rd to 4th, represents November, the night of clarity and wisdom. The Rauhnächte approach their end, and you can take stock of what you experienced during this time. Important decisions emerging from the heart are made this night. This predicts winter's approach, the final preparations before deep cold arrives. This night reveals what November will demand, how much wood to gather, how much food to preserve. The 12th and final night, January 4th to 5th, represents December and completes the cycle. The night of letting go and gratitude. Whatever has not been completely cleansed during previous nights can be transformed one last time. This night foreshadows next year's Rauhnächte. The cycle completes itself and prepares to begin again. January 6th, Epiphany, ends the Rauhnächte. The three wise men traveled to Jesus on this day, according to Christian tradition, and symbolically normal time returns. The veils between worlds close again. Spirits must return to their proper realm. Protection can be removed. Decorations come down. Life resumes its normal rhythm. During each of these nights, the customary practice was writing down dreams immediately upon waking. These dreams were considered prophetic, providing hints about what would happen during the corresponding month. Many families maintained dream diaries across generations to check accuracy, to learn which signs mattered most, to pass this survival knowledge to their children. But dreams were not the only method for seeing the future. Germanic peoples developed sophisticated divination systems, ranging from safe observation to dangerous direct confrontation with otherworld beings. Weather observation was the oldest and safest method. Weather during each Rauhnight predicted weather during the corresponding month. If the first night was stormy, expect windy January. If the 6th night brought snow, June would be cool and rainy. This was taken extremely seriously because fieldwork depended on accurate predictions. Based on these observations, farmers decided when to sow, when to harvest, which supplies to store. To strengthen dream visions, people placed specific herbs under their pillows before sleep. Mugwort promoted prophetic dreams. Lavender calmed and enabled clear visions. Rosemary strengthened memory so dreams would be remembered better upon waking. Lead pouring, still practiced today on New Year's Eve, originated during the Rauhnächte. Small pieces of lead were heated over candles and melted metal was poured into cold water. The resulting shapes were interpreted as symbols for the future. Hearts meant love or marriage. Ships meant great journeys. Crosses could announce death or great suffering. Rings predicted unions. Anchors promised stability. Broken shapes warned of danger. But there were more dangerous methods. Rune throwing used ancient Germanic characters that were not merely letters but magical symbols. Each rune carried specific meaning. Alges represented protection. Reidho indicated journeys. Jibo signified gifts or partnerships. The most dangerous oracle involved listening at the stable door on Holy Night when animals gained human speech and discussed their owners, harvests, illnesses, and deaths. But obtaining this knowledge was extremely dangerous, as the farmer at the beginning discovered when his horses predicted his death and the shock killed him. The 13 Wishes ritual involved writing 13 wishes on paper at the beginning of Rauhnächte, then drawing one paper blindly each day and burning it unread. That wish would supposedly be fulfilled by the universe. At the end, one paper remained. That wish had to be fulfilled by yourself. This tested what you were willing to work for versus what you hoped the universe would provide. These divination methods were not mere superstition. They fulfilled crucial psychological functions. During an era without weather forecasts, medical diagnostics, or economic planning security, they provided people a sense of control over destiny. They assisted in making decisions and preparing for challenges. Many predictions proved accurate, often because people adapted their behavior accordingly. Those who dreamed of wealth worked harder. Those who dreamed of illness paid more attention to health. The Rauhnächte therefore represented not only danger and horror, but also hope and opportunity, a time when the future became visible and fate became fluid enough to influence. But how are these ancient traditions regarded today? What survives of this thousands of years old knowledge? Part 5. Modern Survival. The Rauhnächte survived the centuries, but their meaning transformed completely. What began as vital protective rituals against genuine threats has become a mixture of nostalgia, spirituality, and cultural identity. Yet these customs still fascinate millions. Many people have rediscovered the Rauhnächte in strongly altered form. Instead of fleeing demonic creatures, they use this time for meditation and self-reflection. Fumigation is no longer practiced to drive away spirits, but as aromatherapy and stress reduction. The 12 nights are understood as conscious slowing down in a world that never seems to stop. Many deliberately disconnect electronic devices, light candles, take time for reflection about the past and coming year. The dream diary experienced a renaissance, though no longer as oracle for the future, but as tool for self-knowledge. Psychologists recognize that writing dreams helps understand unconscious thoughts and wishes. What our ancestors interpreted as prophetic visions, we interpret as messages from our subconscious. Weather observation during Rauhnächte is still practiced by some, though more as nostalgic ritual than serious forecast. Modern meteorology with satellite images and computer models largely replaced old farmers' rules. Nevertheless, people exist who swear their grandmothers predicted weather better than any weather report. Sometimes the old methods contained wisdom we have lost. Fumigation developed into a proper trend. Esoteric shops sell special Rauhnite sets with herbs and resins from around the world. White sage from America, Palo Santo from South America, sandalwood from India have joined local herbs. The originally regional tradition became a global phenomenon. The 13 Wishes ritual enjoys great popularity as an alternative to superficial New Year's resolutions. Consciously releasing wishes to the universe is understood as spiritual practice, developing trust in life. Modern psychology found interesting explanations for the continuing fascination. The time between years truly is special for consciousness. Usual rhythm is interrupted. Work rests. Many people have more time for thinking. In this state of rest and reflection, insights arise that remain hidden in hectic everyday life. Winter darkness intensifies this effect. Our brains produce more melatonin in darkness, a hormone that not only causes tiredness but intensifies dream activity. The intense dreams of Rauhnächte have completely natural biological causes. Speaking animals can be explained today. In winter, night silence, we perceive sounds more consciously. Horse snorting, cow mooing, hen cackling can indeed sound like human speech in nighttime silence. What ancestors interpreted as magic, we recognize as perception tricks. Modern folklorists understand the fearsome figures as projections of winter fears. Bloody Lucia embodies fear of losing children during a time of high child mortality. The wild hunt symbolizes fear of winter storms that genuinely could destroy houses and kill people. The Rauhnächte also fulfilled important social functions. They brought community together when work rested and people depended on one another. Shared rituals, storytelling, Shared fears strengthen social cohesion. In our individualized society, many long for such communal experiences. Some regions attempted commercializing old customs as tourist attractions. Rauhnächte walks, fumigation workshops, fairy tale walks. Critics see commercialization of cultural heritage. Supporters argue this is the only way to keep traditions alive. The Church views Rauhnächte ambivalently today. It supports Christian elements like celebrating Christ's birth, but views pagan roots skeptically. Some parishes develop their own Rauhnächte services, merging Christian and pre-Christian elements. In esoteric circles, Rauhnächte are interpreted as time of heightened spiritual energy. Angel cards, crystals, other New Age practices join traditional rituals. This modern spirituality often has little connection to original Germanic customs, but uses their symbolism and atmosphere. Scientists attempted verifying old weather predictions. Results are mixed. Statistical connections exist between winter weather and following month's weather, but too weak to serve as reliable predictions. Perceived accuracy often stems from people remembering accurate predictions better than inaccurate ones. Despite all scientific explanations, the Rauhnächte lost none of their emotional power. They still fulfill human need for ritual, for community, for connection to something larger than everyday life. In an age of globalization and digitalization, they offer return to local traditions and original experiences. Many report actually having more intense dreams during Rauhnächte, feeling more spiritual, gaining important insights. Whether this stems from special energy during this time or from increased attention people give these days ultimately matters less than the experience itself. The Rauhnächte demonstrate how cultural traditions change and adapt. What began as practical survival strategy became religious custom, then folklore, finally modern spirituality. Every generation reinterprets old symbols and makes them fit their time. In a world often seeming devoid of meaning, Rauhnächte offer a form of meaning-making. They remind us that time runs not only linearly but also cyclically. After every end comes beginning. After every darkness comes light. This timeless wisdom explains why people still feel something special during these 12 nights. Why time feels different. Why dreams become more vivid. Why January 7th feels like reality suddenly snaps back into place. The 12 nights between years will continue fascinating people. Perhaps no longer as protection against demonic powers, but as time of reflection, hope, and connection with cultural roots. The veils between worlds may not be as thin as ancestors believed, but the veils between past and present, between tradition and modernity, those remain very thin indeed. Final part. The return. Cultural traditions endure beneath the surface even when their original meanings fade. What began as survival strategy became religious custom, transformed into folklore, finally evolved into modern ritual. Every generation reinterprets. Every generation adapts. But core structures remain. Time between years still feels fundamentally different. Plans made during this week seem unreal, suspended, tentative. Dreams carry unusual vividness. Colors appear brighter. Emotions feel stronger. Symbols emerge clearer. Then January 7th arrives and reality clicks back into normal operation. The suspended quality disappears overnight. Plans suddenly feel concrete again. Time flows forward instead of hovering in place. This shift happens to people who have never heard of Rauhnächte, who know nothing about Germanic folklore, who would laugh at the idea of cosmic gaps. The mathematics remain unchanged. Solar year still exceeds lunar year by 11 days. The gap still opens at sunset on December 24th. Still closes at dawn on January 6th. Exactly on schedule. Every single year. The cosmic flaw our ancestors discovered persists. Perhaps veils between worlds are not actually as thin as our ancestors believed. Perhaps Bloody Lucia does not literally tap on windows. Perhaps the wild hunt does not genuinely ride through winter skies. Perhaps the terror figures were always metaphors for real dangers like cold, hunger, isolation, death. But veils between past and present, between tradition and modernity, those are thin. Thin enough that we still feel what our ancestors felt. Still mark the same 12 nights. Still perform rituals we cannot fully explain. Our ancestors were not superstitious people stumbling through dark times. They were keen observers of nature who recognized that certain times of year possess special quality. They developed complex systems of protection and divination that helped them cope with life's uncertainties. Systems that worked. That kept families alive. That passed through generations because they proved effective. Whether you believe in literal existence of terror figures or interpret them as symbols matters less than recognizing this truth. These stories helped people for thousands of years find meaning in a world that often appears meaningless. They provided structure in chaos, control in uncertainty, hope in darkness. The gap opens again this year, December 24th through January 6th, 11 days belonging to no year. 12 nights outside normal time. Write down your dreams each night. Note which night. Watch the corresponding month. Test whether the old methods still work. See if your ancestors knew something we forgot. Comment your experiences below, especially dreams, unusual occurrences, the sensation that time moves differently. Help document whether prophecy survives in modern times, whether the gap still holds power. Subscribe to see which forbidden archives we unseal next. Your support determines which forgotten knowledge we bring back into light. Until then, watch the nights. Keep your fires burning. Remember what your ancestors understood. After every darkness comes light. After every winter comes spring. After every end comes beginning. The cycle continues. The gap opens. The 12 nights return. See you in the next tomb.